Hi, I'm Julia Finnessy, and I am currently a senior at Rio Americano High School, which is a high school in Sacramento, California. I have been vegetarian for the past almost 4 years, and I've been vegan for just over a year. And my path to vegetarianism isn't as well, I would say it's a little bit more unique than most. Being vegetarian can benefit so many things like animals and the environment and your personal health. None of those reasons are why I'm where I am today and why I haven't touched meat in about 4 years. I would have to blame it all on a bet. Yeah, you see, when I was 14, my family and I were driving to Yosemite, which is about 4 hours away from Sacramento, and you have to drive through a lot of cow towns, as I call it. And a cow town is just a small town with, well, cows. So anywhere you're driving, I would say it happens a lot in California, especially where I live, and anywhere I'm going to around Sacramento, you're going to drive through a lot of agricultural towns that are very small, and they smell like cows. So I call them cow towns. Now we're driving through a bunch of these cow towns, and then finally we stop for lunch because it's a 4-hour drive. And I got a club sandwich. You know, had all the fixings, the cheese, the turkey, the lettuce, the ham. And I was never a ham fan. So I was picking off my ham for my sandwich. And my dad said, because he's such a jokester, he said, "Rosie, that ham's mom is just out back," because we were in Cowtown and there were cows around us. And I was like, ew, that's it. It's over. I'm not eating any more meat after I ate that sandwich. So I finished my sandwich, then we have a weekend in Yosemite, and my dad is like, "You cannot last the weekend." And I was like, "Do we have peanut butter?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Then bet. I am vegetarian now, sir." Lo and behold, here I am 4 years later. Now, since that fateful weekend, I have done a little bit more research into the ethical reasons, the scientific reasons, and the health reasons to why one would go vegetarian. I just can't say that's what pushed me to be where I am today. But I'm very grateful. For me, the most important reason is the environmental impact, and essentially, that's what made me go vegan, except that's not entirely true either. That was more of proving a point too. People used to always joke and say that I was a vegan. They would say, they'd be like, "Rosie, oh, she's a vegan." And they would be, joking, making fun. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Like, I'm just gonna be a vegan. It had been 3.5 years of being vegetarian. I knew how to get my protein from non-meat sources and from non-dairy sources and from fake meat sources. I knew the basics of how to be a vegan. I had sort of been cutting out milk and dairy and eggs for a while. I just hadn't completely eliminated it. So one day I went vegan. I didn't tell anyone in my family, and here I am over a year later, still vegan. And let me tell you, as somebody who didn't have the support from friends or family to make this lifestyle change, it can happen. You just have to make sure that you know what you're doing. So, for instance, when I first went vegetarian, it was a whole lot of Morningstar fake meats. No shade to Morningstar meats and to the Trader Joe's fake meatballs, but it's not really great to live your life off of fake meats. So I had to go through that trial and error period of like, okay, well, either I'm going to eat these fake chicken nuggets or I'm just going to have a spoonful of beans. Neither one are really great options. And then I recall doing a month of non-vegetarianism in like the early stages of turning into a vegetarian. And I had visited New York City, and I was standing in a pizza shop, and I was looking at this array of pizzas, and I was like, am I gonna get the barbecue chicken pizza? Or am I gonna get the veggie pizza? Am I gonna be vegetarian again? Is this my turning point? That was like a life-changing moment. And you know what I did? I stood in there. I am not kidding you. For 15 minutes. My mom and my sister had already ordered. I was just staring down at the variety. So many options. You know what I did? I got the veggie pizza, and I never turned back. There is such a plethora of delicious foods that you can eat when you're vegetarian that you just wouldn't even look at if you weren't vegetarian. And I think that that is the thing that people miss when they think about being vegetarian or vegan especially. Because with being vegetarian, you can do cheeses, grilled cheeses, quesadillas, mac and cheese, like all of that is what I was living off of if it wasn't meatless meatballs. But being vegan, you really have to like go the extra step and learn to cook your own food and learn what tastes good and how you can make something creamy without dairy. And I have just had the most fun with it. So honestly, yeah, I can say that I'm vegetarian or vegan because of a bet. I can say that I'm vegetarian or vegan because it's way better for the environment or because it makes me sad to think about animal agriculture. But in reality, I am still not eating meat and eating plant-based after 4 years because I enjoy finding new foods. I love looking through Pinterest and finding new vegan recipes. Recently, I saw one on TikTok that was delicious. It had lentils in it. I hate lentils usually. And if you are not a vegan or a vegetarian, I had never eaten tofu before I was vegetarian, and now I practically live on tofu. I love tofu. And I would say that being vegetarian has made me healthier, not because I'm not consuming meat or because I'm not consuming any animal products, but because I'm going to the doctors and to the nutritionist pretty regularly to ensure that I'm getting everything that I need to be getting in my body and that I'm not leaving out key nutrients or vitamins just because of a bet, right? So I just think that being vegetarian, at least trying it out, is the right move for everybody, even if it's just a bet for a week or if it's a bet that turns out to be a lifelong thing. I'm pretty grateful that this happened to me, and I would recommend it to anybody who, I always say, anytime anybody says, oh my god, it must be so hard you're a vegan, like you can't eat anything. Hello, you can eat everything, and you get to cook. I love cooking, and I just think it's the most fun thing to like throw together some brownies, serve it to people, don't tell them that it's vegan, and then after they're like, wow, these are pretty delicious, you can be like, psst, it's vegan, and they're like, what? Or just to make an entire vegetarian meal that meat eaters don't miss the meat in. And it's not about replacing meat. It's about making new recipes that don't rely on meat and looking to other cuisines. For me, I take a lot from Mexican food because it's rice and bean based. Or from Asian food, because there's so much tofu going on there. Thai food, I love a pad thai. I mean, I really think that America and maybe some England and Ireland and stuff like that are very heavily meat-based meals, and most people eat at least one meal a day with meat, and typically I would say 2. And honestly, if you take a step back, those are some pretty boring meals. A regular burger versus a black bean burger. And I always say, if you're a meat eater and you are trying to cut back on your meat, go for an Impossible Burger. Those taste exactly the same. I mean, that is coming from somebody who hasn't had a real burger in 4 years. But, you know, take my word for what you will with that knowledge. But I truly believe that you can have so many options. It's such a more, I feel more fulfilled this way by making my own food and coming up with new creations and finding new recipes, and also knowing that I'm helping the animals, the planet, and my body. And so that's the story of how I became vegetarian and why I stayed vegetarian. Thank you.